Good afternoon, students and teachers of the British School of Tashkent, and good morning to our hosts and our guest speaker in South Africa. I'm very grateful to the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, who has kindly set up this meeting for us, and to Tali Nates, the founder and director of the center, who, as usual, jumped at the chance to assist our wonderful guest speaker, Veronica Phillips, in sharing her truly remarkable and inspiring story. Since discovering the Holocaust Center in 2018, I've learned a great deal through its many educational seminars and online resources, and I'm convinced that you too will benefit from looking at the center's YouTube channel, which provides world-class presentations on genocide memory and prevention. I would now like to hand over to Tali Nates, who will be introducing to us our very special guest speaker, Veronica Phillips.
Thank you so much, Susanna. I'm sorry it's a little bit difficult here, but you are very welcome to Johannesburg. You are welcome to the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, and it is our pleasure to work with you at the British School in Uzbekistan, and it is fantastic to present to you our star, Veronica Phillips, who is not only a Holocaust survivor from Budapest, Hungary. She will tell you the story. I don't want to tell you any part of the story, but is also a volunteer at the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, speaking to many groups for the last years. And she will tell you more about who she was, who she became, a wonderful genetic scientist, and about her life today. So welcome. I want to present to you Veronica Phillips.
Good morning. My name is Veronica Phillips, and I'm a Holocaust survivor. I would like to tell you our life before the whole thing started, because Hungary was always anti-Semitic. They sucking it with their mother's milk. So they grow up like that. But I am going to go back to the Austro-Hungarian Empire and to make understand what was life before. I wasn't born there. I was born in 1926. And the König was not anti-Semitic because they were running away from Poland and Russia for the killing. And they let them in. It was very understanding. So I am going to tell you before even the war. He let in all the people who were running away to save their life. But unfortunately, it didn't last that long. In 1920, Horthy came to power in Hungary. And he was in collaboration with the Germans. So if he didn't do what they told him, they will tell him, we will kill your one and only son. So he loved his son and he agreed. So that's how the whole started. About my family and the community. The community wasn't rich, but they were religious. And even my grandmother, who came from Poland to Hungary, she didn't speak Hungarian, but she was running away. And you know, when you're forced to do something, you do it. So she learned Hungarian, and I can tell you, it's a very difficult language. The situation with the anti-Semitic policies is, as I told you, it was through Horthy. But Horthy did what they told him. He was not standing up. He was not really a leader. He was just following the rules. And the rules was being anti-Semitic. And they didn't like the Jews ever. When I was going to school, that was much later, when I used to go to school, I was skipping all the way to get there. I loved learning. But one day when I went in, it was on the blackboard, Jews are rats. Whatever I loved so much, I didn't like it anymore. And also, you know, in the yearbook, they wrote, if you were an excellent student, your name was block letters in the yearbook. But they can't have an Israelite in block letters in the yearbook. So they gave me one not so good mark, so I didn't have to do it. I am just explaining, I'm not talking time-wise, I am just explaining to you what I've been through. And you can imagine what that means. But anyway, my father, the action was that they took people to the working camps. The men from certain age had to go and dug the ground. But the women, like I wasn't a woman yet, I had to give my sewing machine and I went and worked there to make soldiers' hand shirts. They didn't pay. It was all for the war effort. But some cousins of mine, they were taken earlier to the, it was a working camp. I still was working and we stayed in the ghetto, which was like a ghetto, Jewish people around, and it was mostly Jewish shops. Didn't get rich, they were making a living. But it got worse and worse because, you know, they couldn't get anything to sell. So many of them gave it up. But as they say, such as life. Was I any appointment for a rescue? Yes, it was. The Swiss ambassador Karl Lutz and Wallenberg, who was a Sweden. Anyway, and he tried to make a pact with the Russians. They went to talk to them and never came back. They killed him. Whoever was for the Jews, they didn't want to know. Not only the Hungarian, everybody. So, but Carlos was fantastic. I also had a Schutzpass with my father, mother, and my little brother. But they bought big houses where they put out on the top under Swiss protection. And we stayed there and we were happy that this is saving our lives. Little did we know. The no, not heckle. Oh,
Arrow cross, the arrow cross.
the arrow cross, thank you. The arrow cross came in one morning, went up to the 6th floor, told everybody to get ready and throw us down on the stairs, hurt us, tear to bits to the Schutzpass, and then we went with my mother. By then my father also joined us and my little brother, but all the food was with my mother. So she went and gave some to us because I was with my father. But I wouldn't let her come back. So, I was crying. We all were crying. And somebody had a heart and let her go back and left some food for us. From then, we went through Budapest. And everybody was shouting, Heil Hitler! And everybody was spitting on us. But then they took us to a park. And from that park, we had to go to the station. And in that station, they took us to the other end, and it was more people coming. And in the end, the wagon, which had 80 people in one wagon, started to go to Ravensbrück. And in Ravensbrück, we've been in a big cell because they didn't expect anybody. It was the end of the war. And they did kill as many as they could. So when we arrived in Ravensbrück, we didn't have the number because they didn't want to keep us at all. So, but they didn't give us any food, no water, but people who were there already, they stayed in a barrack, and there it was water, and my cousin was in that barrack, so she gave us some water, because we had been thirsty, we didn't have anything to drink or eat. But they came and started to hit her. Don't give them anything. And they were also Jewish. But darling, when you are living under them, you became like them. Anyhow, the next day, we went out and queued up in front of the gas chamber. We didn't know it was a gas chamber. I just could smell the flash burning. And we didn't know that we are going to be burned. But the others who were there before, they knew. But suddenly, as we've been standing there, a call came that they need 313 people to work in an aeroplane factory, which was in panic. It's by the triangle. And when the Allies came to bomb it, it was Chemnitz, Leipzig, and which one was the third? Chemnitz, Leipzig,
Is it Dresden?
No,
Dresden, I think. No?
panic.
Panic.
And we all pray to God when they bomb that place to bomb us, to finish with the suffering. Because even when we've been in this place where we checked, and I was working from a drawing, because that drawing was in German. And in school, I learned German, so I understood a little bit. And my two cousins who lived with us when we've been in the ghetto as well, because my uncle and aunt had a two-bedroom flat. And in one bedroom they stayed, and the other bedroom we stayed. But, you know, those two cousins stayed with me. And when it was the end of the war and we'd been liberated, we came back together. But we had to say that we are Podskatspatsky Rus, so we are Russians. So they let us through. And then, but they were just as bad as the others. They all want to hurt us and do what all the others did. And in the end, we didn't stay in the wagons, but went on an oil tank, which had a little, about this big, plank. And we've been sitting on that plank because we thought we'd rather die that I've been prosecuted by them. I tell you, I never forgot it in my life, how that oil tank went. And you know, we hold it to that plank. We didn't want to die then, because I thought now it will be the end. And the end was very near. By the time we came to Carlsbad, where they collected all the liberated people, and they took us to a lead crystal paste. And you know, I picked up, and I had no energy whatsoever. But you know, the anger made me strong. I lifted up a crystal vase and threw it on the floor. And it went in million places. And perhaps it helped me to get out all that anger. I don't know if I'm going, you know, time-wise, how it happened, but I am trying to explain the situation, what we've been through. And then we came to the border. And at the border, they stopped us because they had to take us to disinfect us because we've been full of lice. You know, when we went to panic in that place, we slept 3 people in a bunker, 2 this way and 1 the other way. And we didn't know first what it was. We were just scratching. It was the lice. They were hungry. And there was a fish body, not used yet. So they had a good meal out of us. I can't tell you what a feeling it is. But you understand what a position we've been in. When we came to the border. I told you we've been disinfected. And then they let us go to Budapest. And when we arrived in Budapest, there were the electric trams. We got on the tram, and you know, with all these, it was not our clothes, the clothes what they gave us. And everybody looked at us. But eventually we came where we had our store. And somebody, a lady who had her store, she was a hairdresser, recognized me. I don't know how she did, because I was 35 kilo and I didn't look, I had no hair. And somebody else already arrived, and I told my mother that I am coming. I can't tell you what I felt when I hold her. This was my life. I don't know if I can tell you anymore. Ask me. I am going to look. The resistance existed. And Carlos helped them to go to Israel. But I was too young. I didn't know what and where to go. I was too young. And the women were differently affected from the men. The men had to go in forced labor from a certain age to quite late, till 60, and were digging. My father was a cabinet maker, but he was not well. He had ulcer, so they cut out 2/3 of his stomach, and then he couldn't do heavy work. So they put him in a station where they made the old wagons better, where it was working there. But otherwise, all the men had to go and dig. It is very difficult to go day by day, but you understand how difficult it is for me, because I see what it happened with my mind eyes. When we went working into the place, and I bought a lot of papers, which I can tell you, because I got the book where they changed my marks. One, not good. So they don't want Israelite with block letters, because they did a lot of photocopies. I don't know if you want to see it, I can show you. And how was my Holocaust effect in my future and life after 1945? 1945, when I came back, and my mother had a little shop, but not a sweet shop, but it was food. We sold sugar and all sort of things. And after that, my life has changed. I have to say, to the better. Because I went to work in Glaxo. And in Glaxo, I was studying, and I was in the Kondo Kalman electrical engineering to study. So I had matriculated. And after matriculation, I went to work, and I bettered myself. And the first, I became a microbiologist, a technician. And as I got better in that, I educated myself. And then I was singing, it's a Hungarian, Ballag Vén Diák, moving the old student further, further. And it was further, because then I was working in a laboratory checking antibiotics. I can't really explain how it works, because you got to have some knowledge of microbiology. But he was a Hungarian, and he was the head of that department. And he helped me to go to school and get better. And then when it was finished, we went to England, because my father's family were born in England. So we get what is it?
Visa?
A passport to go to England. And in England, I didn't speak the language. But my brother went first underground, and he found for us a place where we could stay. I was going to work as a cleaner to learn the language. But slowly, slowly, everything went better. I met my husband, but that was still in Hungary. He was also a survivor. I married him, but unfortunately, we haven't been lucky. I had 8 miscarriages and not one child to live. So I took with me some memory for the Holocaust. I can also say, if you want to know anything else, which I haven't mentioned, and you are interested, I will be here and you can ask, and I will try to answer you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Veronica, for sharing your heartfelt story and for allowing us to see a little bit of your life. I know it's painful to remember. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure the students have questions. There were some parts maybe that weren't, that people couldn't hear audibly. So I'm sure who would like to start asking some specific questions? Otherwise, maybe I'll give them a minute and I'll ask you in that minute to show us your mark book. I had responded to your question earlier, but I didn't realize I was on mute. So maybe while you're getting that out and showing us, everyone can think about what questions they might want to ask. And at that point in time, I just want to also tell everyone in other classrooms, I know that there are other classrooms watching, please unmute yourselves and also ask questions, okay? It shouldn't just be the students that are with me. Okay.
Susanna, people can also write in the chat and I can manage that. So if they don't mind to write in the chat, it will be fantastic.
I think that's a brilliant idea. Thank you, Tali. So if you've got any questions, you can type them.
That is in Hungarian. When I came back from the Holocaust, this is the place where I made the shirts for the soldiers. This is my family. They did it here in the center. This is when I was 3 years old. And this is what they gave us because they had the phone system. And to be able to get a book, you had to have to show that you've been there. This is my oldest cousin who was shot in front of her mother. And I can't find my... Oh, this is what we had from the Red Cross. It's not on my name because the Germans were very, very direct. They did have everything, but this is not mine. But I was the number next to it. So they sent this to me. And I can't find the book there. I didn't drop it down, I don't think. I can't find the book.
Which book?
The book.
Did we not show it? The little, we did show it. Just talk about your doll, behind you.
The doll is behind me. And when I came back, my mother kept it for me right through the war. I made that dress to the doll. And the doll has not a toe because my niece was teasing and she bit it off. The niece who brought me. No. What I wanted to show, the book.
Okay, bring everything back. We will give you back. Is it this one? Here, the book.
No, that's...
Not this.
No, not this.
Another book?
I want the book. I don't know where I put it. The book from the school.
Ah, the marks. No, I don't think that she brought the report. You know, You didn't bring it, but we will send it to you. We will send it to you, a copy.
Thank you so much. Not a problem. Thank you for sharing all these documents with us. There are a few
some questions on the chat. So shall I ask her and then she will answer? So one student is asking, can you tell again about the leader in Germany, about Horthy? Can you tell a little bit about Horthy?
Horthy was Tengeris.
A dictator? No.
No.
General? No.
No.
My Hungarian is not
good. He was no king because you had to come from a certain family to be Kaiser and König.
Yes. He was a
dictator.
Yeah, like a dictator, but regent. Regent.
Oh, good.
My Hungarian is very good.
But mine is not so good. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, you drink. So he came to power in 1920. He was a regent and like a dictator, and he was in power until 1944 in Hungary.
Yes,
until the Arrow Cross.
Yes, because then the Arrow Cross took over Szálasi.
Yes, he was terrible, hey? Shocking.
Danny, like an animal.
Yes.
An animal doesn't do this to another animal, what they did to us. And if I find my book, I send it to Telly, and she will send it to you. Because then you can see it crossed out and made a not so good. So they didn't have put my name in block letters.
Vazira is asking, what helped you most during the Holocaust? What helped you mentally?
Nothing really, because I prayed to God to kill me. It was terrible. And when I saw Leipzig burning, and you know, that was very close to panic, I prayed to God to kill us all and end this terrible thing. But he didn't listen.
Did you ever see or heard of Nazis, Germans, that tried to help? That is, Yamina is asking. Or did you hear stories about anyone that tried to help?
Only after the war. Not then.
Not then, not to you.
And not to anybody.
Yeah. Ahmed is asking, have you met anyone that did not believe you, that said to you, no, really?
Only after the war.
Tell us.
They said, oh, it's in your mind. It's not in our mind. And some people still say they don't believe in it. They even made film on it. But it happened. But you know, we are a dying race. So soon it will be nobody to call them a liar.
Do you believe anti-Semitism died with the Nazis?
No. Anti-Semitism is still everywhere, even in England. Because my brother went back to England, and my sister is there, and I spoke to her on Skype every week. Even there is anti-Semitism. Very often, when I watch the news from England, I switch it off. It makes me sick. After all this, Well, that's what I'm saying. If I am gone, nobody will be telling them that they are lying.
Yes, sadly, racism, anti-Semitism is not dead,
Even here.
even here. Yamina is asking, when you were in the concentration camps, did you hear any outside news about the Allies, about the war? How did you get these news?
Well, they didn't. They didn't. Just one morning, we've been watched all the time, even when we've been sleeping. They didn't want us to run away, but you couldn't run away because it was electrical fence all around. But one day we looked out and it was no soldiers there. And that's when we know that being liberated, that was the liberation. And then from all around they came. They came, the French, the English, the American, all from the different way. But then they tried to save us. We've been fasting all the time. And some people gave them food and they tried to eat in an empty stomach and it burst. They died. They wanted to make good and they killed them.
Terrible.
But this is not written in a book.
Mm-hmm. Samira is asking an interesting question. With the memories over the years and talking about it in the last few years, is it becoming easier? What happens to your memories?
Not easier, because I visualize it as I'm talking about it in my mind. I can see it in my mind's eye. I will never, ever forget it. Only when I go to the grave.
Yeah. It's not getting easier.
No, and I had to tell you this story. I didn't speak about it to anybody. But you told me I have to tell the story. And since then, I am telling my story.
It's important.
Darling, you are a godsend.
Thank you.
And your father was with Schindler. You are a very famous lady.
My father was.
And your daughter is my Kimi.
Yes, yes. There is a question from Samira. She's asking, did the Germans rule you in the camps, or were there also other people from other nationalities that were working with the Germans, like the Hungarians or other?
No, we didn't have Hungarian in the camp. In the camp, it was only Germans. And Hitler was Berchtesgadenstadt, telling what to do. And they say he died. He killed himself. I don't believe in anything like that. He's probably living somewhere in Argentina. No, he's too old now.
He's too old now. Susanna, I think there are a few more questions coming. Do you think survivors feel the same or different survivors feel differently? How do you experience it?
I have to tell you this because it's a lady who is a survivor. And we've been to the German ambassador for tea. And she said, why I was still talking? I don't want to talk about it. I want to forget it. I said, how can you forget it? Because the children is not interested. They don't want to know, and I don't want to know. So there are people.
Yes, that don't speak. Yes, yes.
But I didn't talk to anybody for many, many years.
Yeah. And that's, Susanna is asking why your documentary is called The Secret Survivor. You know, the documentary that Jonathan did.
Yes. It's a secret survivor because I didn't tell anybody.
They didn't know.
No. And they made a film. You must have seen the film.
Yes, yes.
They showed the film in Cape Town and Durban and here.
Yes. Susanna is asking you to, do you remember she brought a friend, a German Austrian that used to be a Nazi and now he's not a Nazi anymore? What, you forgave him. I don't know if you remember, it was a few years ago. A young man came and he was a neo-Nazi. His name was Ivo. Yes, you remember?
Yeah, of course.
You remember?
I am still in touch with him.
Oh, wonderful. So can you tell why you decided to forgive him? And can you tell about this encounter?
Because he was disgusted what his father did. And he wanted to make good. And he's only moving around with the Jews. But he was very sick. But now, thank God, God likes him. Now he's getting better. And he might even come and visit me.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
But only in the summer when Susanna will come. So we meet all of us together. Because are you still keeping in touch? Yes.
Yamina is asking, do you think there is a way to stop denial of the Holocaust? How can we fight denial of the Holocaust and stop it once and for all?
It will be always somebody. And they made a film also. And the solicitor won the case.
Yes. Yes, it was called denial. Yes. Yeah. But education is important, I think. Okay?
Darling, the Hungarian, especially the people who live in the country, they have no education.
Okay. Do you sometimes have dreams, Samira is asking, about your times in the camps and what happened to you at night? Do you have sometimes dreams?
Yes.
Nightmares?
And not only that, when I watch a film about this, I cry from the beginning and the end.
Yeah, it brings back a lot of stuff.
It is there all the time. You can't forget that.
Joan is asking, what happened to people that tried to escape from the camps?
No escape. No escape. Very high electric fence right around. You just have to touch it and see some people finish with their lives. They touched it and they burned. Because it's unbelievable what you suffer. And he wanted to finish, and he did. No, she, because it was a woman's saga.
I think there is no more questions to Veronica, or else you have questions, Susanna. There is one question from Brooklyn about the Kovno ghetto, because behind there is a display about the Kovno ghetto, and that is another ghetto. Veronica spoke about Budapest, the ghetto. Kovno ghetto was in Lithuania. And there were many other ghettos like Warsaw, like Lodz, like Krakow, many ghettos existed. Minsk, and Kovno is one of them.
And even in Russia.
Yes, in Minsk, in
Russia
Riga.
was worse than Hitler.
There were lots of camps in Russia, Gulag. And many other terrible camps in Russia under Stalin.
And Stalin killed more people than anybody else. And I remember when they took his, the big, what they stand for him in Budapest. It was
a statue, like a statue of Stalin, yes.
On the 22nd of October was. I remember because it was the birthday of my aunt, and my mother went to see her, and I was worried because they came from the Városliget, this end, with the statue, and my mother came from the other end, and they stopped, and they took not the television,
not radio, no. Was it a radio? No, the camera, yes.
They took that. And I was worried that something will happen to my mother. But thank God she arrived safe.
Sure, after all that.
Stalin
was not a good man. Not a good man. Okay, there are two nice questions. One is, what were your hobbies as a child? What did you like to do? What things did you do as a child before the war, before everything?
Dolls. And I also had a little brother who was 7 years my junior. And my parents were in the shop. So I looked after him. And, I feed him, I played, here it comes, in Hungarian. Here it comes, hum.
That's your father. And what subject did you like at school the most? This is from Izora.
It's difficult to say.
Did you like mathematics? Did you like?
I had a wonderful mathematics lecturer, and she made me like it. She was a very good teacher. Maybe history, I don't know. Yes. Can't really go back that far.
Yes. Okay, interesting. Sabina is asking, in your opinion, despite the Holocaust, what happened to you? Do you think you achieved in life what you wanted to achieve? Despite what happened after the Holocaust, how do you see your life? How do you look at your life?
Then I achieved what I wanted. The only thing which I didn't achieve is have a child.
Yeah. So luckily you have Janice and the children.
That's right. They're my children.
Yeah. I think that's it, Susanna. Maybe you unmute yourself and we can let Veronica drink a little bit and have a quick rest.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Veronica, for your time, for your story, for letting us in and seeing a little bit of your life. And thank you so much, Charlie, for being there and reading out the questions and helping along. I don't know.
Yes. Charlie, this would never happen.
It would not happen, yes.
Wonderful character.
Absolutely.
It is her baby. And her baby is my baby. Skimming. Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for hosting and for making this possible and jumping at the opportunity, as said before. If there are no more questions, there are no more questions in our room. I'm just leaving it open still to students in other rooms. If anyone is hearing me now and they still want to ask a question, can you please put it in the chat? I'll give you another half a minute and then we can close them.
How many
Yes.
people were watching?
I don't actually know how many. We are in 4 different rooms. So I've got about 10, 15 in my classroom. And then there are still quite a few other people in other rooms as well. There are students from grade 9 all the way to grade 13. Some of them will have discussed the Holocaust with me already. Others will be going into that depth study now in the next few weeks about Nazi Germany. And yeah, I'm hoping to show them a little bit of Perlaska, of the movie that I watched at the center with you, because I think that will give them a little bit of a better understanding still of your story as well.
But I want to ask you, did it help you to teach them?
Did it help me to teach them? I think every time you teach a topic and a subject, you'll understand it better every time you teach. So absolutely, every year I teach, I learn new things. And every time I listen to you and to other survivors, I learn new things. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe Susanna, if you can, if you or the other students can say what it is to hear a first person testimony, you know. Veronica is 94-year-old young, but you know, but what does it mean to actually not hear it from a teacher or from a book or from a film, but to hear it from a living person, you know, will be quite interesting for if anyone wants to say or to write.
The students are busy thinking, yes.
And yeah, and you can relay it, Susanna, if you want.
There are how many living survivors?
Here, maybe 20. Maybe less.
No, because
I think we're going to have someone respond. Anyone?
Okay,
Samira? Yes, you can put on your camera and you can speak there and unmute yourself and speak directly. Just, no, you don't need the mask. So, can you see Samira?
Well, yes.
Yeah. So it definitely puts a different perspective on the story. Definitely, you know, educates you more. Even, you know, it just makes you understand the, you know, the topic deeper. And yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Samira, for sharing your opinion with us. Thank you. There are just few more questions and then we will close. The one question is, what is your message to the world, to the students? What is, if there are messages, lessons that you learned, what will be those messages?
To have had this opportunity. I know
First
no
of
movie or
all,
book could compare to
education,
story. Thank
very
you so much.
important. After being healthy, education is very important. And whatever education you can achieve is all yours. Nobody can take it away from you. So try to do as much as you can.
Joan, you can just repeat. Sorry, we were talking together. So can you repeat what you said? This is one of the students.
Hello. To listen to your story is an honor, and I'm grateful
that you gave us this opportunity. And I know no movie or book could compare to this. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity today.
Thank you so much, Joan. She's so appreciated. Fantastic. Thank you.
I didn't hear what she
That
said.
she honors you, and thank you so much. It means so much to her that you shared the story. Thank you.
I would like to share it with the world. So maybe they can learn that it will never, ever happen again.
And I think these are exactly the answers to what motivates her and what scares her, you know, that were other questions that she already answered through this answer. So I think that's about it. So Susanna, maybe we can close. Yeah. So I think we answered all the questions, I think, up to now.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for your time again. And thank you to all the students that participated, that used the opportunity. As Veronica said, there are not very many Holocaust survivors left, and there are even fewer that have the courage and also that can deal with the fact that they can retell their story without breaking down, or that will actually go through that pain to remember such terrible experiences. So thank you very much for that courage and for believing in the mission that you have to spread this word across the world to so many others that are now living in a generation that don't remember this. And yeah, so thank you also for your friendship. And we will be in touch, and I will definitely bring Ivo over. He's already booking his flight or looking at flights. So we will meet again.
Can he fly?
He can fly. His legs are getting better. His back is getting better. And we will hopefully meet you in June. Yes. Thank you.
The old gang.
Yes, the whole gang back together. Thank you. Have a lovely day, and we'll be in touch.
He is one of the German who I like.
I will let him know.
And it's another German, Martin Schäfer.
Ambassador.
Yes.
He is. She had the wife had a little baby, and I wanted to hug and kiss because I don't have a baby. And when I came here for my birthday, they put the baby in my lap. Oh, I can't tell you what a mehaya it was. Yeah.
In June, you'll be hugging Nathan too. Finally.
And when I go home, I'm going to look for that book. I don't know where I left it.
You will find it. You will find
Darling, I was looking and looking for things all the time.
Yeah. You will find it.
Darling,
Janice
looking is getting on my nerves. Maybe I find it somewhere underneath.
Yes.
Lovely day to both of you.
So thank you so much, and we will send you the recording and the chat. And a lot of the students are writing down thank you, that they will be with the witnesses. They will tell your story, and we so appreciate it. And they say it was an honor to listen to you.
Thank you. Maybe we can do that with some other people.
Excellent. Absolutely. Here is Shirley.
Bye. Hello and bye, Shirley. Thank you for
and Janice is here. Come and say hello before we go. Here's Delta. And this is Janice. This is the niece of Veronica.
Oh, nice to see you.
A child with grandchildren.
Yes. Wonderful. Great to see your family as well.
A girl, a boy, a girl, a boy. How did you do it?
Very clever.
Thank
So-
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Do bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.